Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Xa Talk Show. So today we're gonna talk about I don't know. So type a topic, guys. Just go to this page and type a topic there. And okay, so I'm going to start to talk random stuff. So Joe Armstrong died. He died today. So he was born in 1950. So that makes him 70 years old. Yeah, or 69. So he died today. And, Joe Armstrong, he is the creator of the Erlang language. I actually never learned Erlang language, but, Erlang is, one of the language that has the feature of being kind of like distributed computing. Actually, I don't know much about it, because, well, Erlang is one of the functional language. Actually, it's one of the earliest, most successful functional language, used in the industry. Yeah, that's a key. It's the most successful functional. It's the first successful functional language used in the computing industry. And so that also means it's very practical, unlike, for example, Haskell. So Erlang, and it has the kind of some kind of a hard plug feature and distributed. But I want to learn it, but I just never did. So we have one guy watching. Hey guy, hey, say something. So Erlang, so yeah, Joe Armstrong died, but it's interesting because well, I have a kind of a story to tell. Let's go to web design, okay? So I have this page on web design, and one of the problem of the stupidity of the web design crowd fashion is that you have these let's see, gray text on white background. You can see. Let's see if you can see it. Gray text on white background. Yeah, here. Okay. Let's move this over here so you can. You see, this is one of the problem of the web design. You see, it began around 2010, and people, the web designers, websites started to use gray text on white background. It's one of the extreme idiocy, and it also inflicted the scheme racket Lisp language's website. You see these texts? Can you read them? I cannot read them. It's gray. Why do they use gray? Because supposedly, you have. Actually, I don't know. I think there is like one or two guys who began this gray on white trend. Typically these are kind of like gurus. These guru fuckheads. They are like so they post to Hacker News, and their post becomes widely popular or spread by something like at least. There's a web design website called at least something. It's all no good. And also there's a CSS Garden. Uh, it's also kind of a fad. So these gurus, supposedly web design gurus, began it. So and all of a sudden, all websites, almost most websites, began to have gray text in white background. So I have collected on this page some of the egregious examples. You can see. Uh, so there's a racket scheme website, racket scheme racket Lisp, and then you find this page, this one, this. Okay, hold on a second. Okay, all these are gray on white, and look at this one. This one is from Ars Technica. Now, Ars Technica is one of the technical, it's one of the website for programmers, and their articles are typically above average. I mean, their article has a higher quality than most. But however, they are also inflicted by the gray on white design thing. Look at this orange text. Like, can you actually read them? I mean, if you think about this, it's like impossible. It's like this. This idiocy spread. Any person, if you look at this, you will know that this is really hard to read. However, it's just like that, on their website. So that's another example. So let's show you some more examples. Okay, here's more examples. Then it also inflicted Google, Chrome website, their Chrome related website, dev tools and stuff, gray on white, and it's got worse and worse examples. You can see, and lo and behold, look at this one. Look at this one. Okay, this one is from Joe Armstrong, the guy who created Erlang. Now look at his code example here. It's impossible to read. Now this is his blog on 2015 on GitHub.io. So anyway, that's the case. He's it's on his website. You know, it's not it's not exactly that he created this color scheme to use for his website. This the spreading of this web design guru uh, problems is that usually, when guru proclaims something is good, then it spread. So basically, it spread to all the frameworks and templates. Like CSS. There's a bunch of CSS templates. I don't think they are good. Basically, cut and paste. That's the situation with the industry. So you got this whole bunch of frameworks and templates. And they are using gray on white. So that is how I believe that is how Joe Armstrong also his blog also become this gray on white thing, impossible to read. But however, so this is 2015. But however, the website changed afterwards. I suppose. Okay, so actually, this is 2013. So this article. Oh my God! He also delete all his blogs? You see, right now it's 444 now. Let's see if Joe Armstrong deleted his blog. Okay, let's see. Huh. Tiddly wiki. Oh. Hmm. Wow, it's possible. So Joe Armstrong's website is gone. So what is this Tiddly wiki? So who is watching? Say hi. So TiddlyWiki is the best software I've found for organizing my ideas. So it's where I was spending hours of playing with this. So what is this TiddlyWiki? Now it's possible someone stole his account. I mean, you know, he passed away, he died, and maybe sometimes maybe he abandoned his blog and someone just you know used his name. It's possible, or something like that. I'm not sure what's going on, but anyway, that's his website. So what I'm saying is that his website on 2015, it has this gray text on white background. Then after I noticed, I check now and then it's fixed. I suppose the reason it was, gray on white, because he was using, one of these fashionable templates. People get old, so in 2015 he's already 65 or something. Um, there's a video on YouTube where Joe Armstrong talks about Erlang, and you can see that the video is like from 30 years ago, 40 years ago. The way he talks, the programmers is all different. They are still using telephones. Um, so Erlang is designed, it's one of the, first functional language designed in used in a phone networking industry. So anyway, so that's Erlang. So that's Joe Armstrong. And this is about gray on white. It's one of the most uh, idiotic thing in the programming industry. There are so many idiotic things in programming industry. However, they just spread. And the reason for that is, I mean, you understand. Obviously that's untrue. What Well, in the sense that's scientifically not verifiable. It's said to be a faith. Now, on the other hand, if you are religious, let's say you are Protestant, or or you are Catholic, or you are Mormon, or you are Islamic. There are many branches, many sects. Okay, now let's say if you are American Protestant, some Protestant. I mean, I don't quite understand some of the branches. Like, there's also Puritanican. All I know is basically on top there's two divisions, like Protestant and Catholic. Okay, and so both of these are Christianity. Okay, um, of course there are also Mormons, which doesn't belong, to either Protestant or or the Catholic. Uh, but anyway, so all these are Christianity, but also Islam. Actually, Islam and Christianity, they have the same parent, kind of. It's called Abrahamic religions. Now if you are a God believer, you don't like to hear this. Probably you don't think it's that's valid. But anyway, that's how it is classified in some kind of scientific sense, because all these religions are so called monotheistic, meaning that they believe one God. Well, actually, they are kind of the same parent, same branch, because they have their Bible, the Bible, and also Judaism, also belongs to part of the Christianity. The Bibles and the Islam's the book, they kind of all share the same story. Kind of is similar. On the other hand, it's Buddhism is entirely different thing. And Buddhism, there is no, well, it's an entire different religion. It has its branches as well. So anyway, so what I'm saying is that back to the topic. So I'm saying is that yeah, well, if you do not believe in religion, then obviously to you, the concept of God and things like that is just absurd. I mean, from a scientific point of view, because it's just a faith. It's what you believe. You cannot go all the way scientifically, because if you push scientifically all the way, then basically you don't know why you are here. You don't know what's your purpose. There's none you can say. You cannot, say, okay, scientifically, therefore I'm here because this or that. There's no such. So anyway, so if you are not, a religious person, then obviously those gods and stuff are absurd. Now, if you are religious, but you can also see, the non-believers or other religions are absurd, because, for many of these religions, you can only believe one God. If you believe other gods, that's heresy. You believe in Jesus Christ, for example. Okay. Um, but some other religions, Buddhism doesn't believe, there's a Jesus Christ, or maybe there is, but it doesn't believe, it's not the Buddhism's thing. So so to a Buddhist, for example, it's kind of absurd. You have this Christian God, but to the Christians, it's kind of, it's a heresy to have this Buddha or whatever, this, or in India they have this god with elephant, like a elephant god, a god with an elephant trunk and stuff like that. So in, outside of programming, outside of science, physics, science, engineering, you have all these different beliefs, and they are not scientific beliefs. But actually, I think it works in the same way for programmers and engineers, because as they say, for example, you are Emacs user, then you believe in Church of Emacs. To you, Emacs Lisp is one of the great language. It's fun. It's so powerful. Emacs is the greatest editor. That. And you cite about Emacs versus Vim, all day and night, and you cite about how Emacs is the greatest editor, how it really, kicks out all the others, like no comparison and all that, and how Emacs is a Lisp machine, on and on. It's actually, in fact, from a scientific view, it's actually patently untrue. Like what you believe in about Emacs is just patently false. For example, a few weeks ago, there's people are clamoring about Emacs Lisp, how great it is a language. So I did a video, I did a video about Emacs Lisp, the language. It's actually one of the worst possible, even from a reserved scientific point of view, like very, like you want to bias in favor of Emacs and Emacs Lisp, for example. I'm a Emacs Lisp programmer. So even if you really want to believe, there's just no way to justify. I mean, the fact is that Emacs Lisp is one of the worst possible language in use today. One of the worst. There's no question about it. There's no, maybe, or maybe it's just an opinion. It's not an opinion. Emacs Lisp is the worst language possible in today's world. Let's say worse than the top 10 most popular languages. Worse than PHP. Okay, worse than JavaScript. No doubt about it. No, there's no question, no argument about that. But however, as you know, in the Emacs community, we seriously believe Emacs Lisp is great and all that. Okay, that's about. So what I'm saying about all this is that programmers, they, for example, this gray on white, this web design thing, and lots of other web design issues. So many things programmers believe, we believe, okay, we believe so strongly. Like, for example, formatting, which is another topic. I talked about it in another video a few weeks ago about code formatting, coding style kind of thing. So lots of things people programmers we believe, but actually is patently false. So the question is, why is that? And I think it's really it's really because programmers are not very different from non-programmers on things that's not related to programming, such as religion, as an example. So yeah, so that's so in programming community, there are lots of beliefs as well. Lots of beliefs, codes, and uh, and some of them come and go. For example, there's agile and there's patterns, anti-patterns. There's object-oriented programming. There's functional programming. Some of the things we see are just enthusiasm, which is okay. But what I'm saying is that often it's beyond enthusiasm. Some people, for example, there are people who believe in Haskell, for example, functional programming, to such a degree that that they say things that are just not true. I don't have much example about functional programming, but I have more examples about OOP, object-oriented programming, and agile and patterns stuff, and lots of things, and the Emacs, of course. Okay, so so that's about that. So I'm talking about something. Okay, so that's about that. So programmers believe are actually not reliable, not to be trusted. Much of it is false. Um, okay, what else? So web design. Joe Armstrong, the creator of uh, Erlang, died today. Um, let's talk about something else. So I've been working on my JavaScript. Um, I've been working on my JavaScript stuff, JavaScript in depth a lot in the past 2 weeks. I'm getting back to JavaScript. Um, so anyway, so let's see who is watching. Two people watching. Okay, okay. Let's talk about some other things. So okay, so if you have a comment or opinion or questions, just type it. Type it, okay? Otherwise, I'm just going to talk about random. So I've been working on JavaScript in the past 2 weeks to continuously refine my project, which is this tutorial, JavaScript in depth. So close that. Global variable, yeah, JavaScript. So web design, that's lots of topics there. So this, I'm not sure what's going on. This Joe Armstrong, Joe Armstrong's page becomes this tiddly wiki. So Sound Talk Show. Okay. So let's go to Twitter. Let's go to Twitter, or let's go to Vim Golf. We did Vim Golf yesterday. Let's see how compiler works. Go over my Twitter. So what's new? Web design. So we can talk about JavaScript. I can give you a introduction to. I have a lot of topics huge amount of topics nonstop. And the thing is that in a conversation, you know how it is, like when you have maybe with friends, sometimes you don't have any topic um, to talk about. That's a situation. So JavaScript function arguments default value. So yeah, JavaScript is one of the worst language. Now I need to say that with some clarification, uh, because if you, first of all, JavaScript is a very advanced language. Okay, since 2015, it has features comparable to Python or Ruby. Okay, no less. In fact, it's even faster than Python and faster than Ruby. Okay, that is the nature of JavaScript. JavaScript 2015, for example, if you go to my website, JavaScript 2015 features, it has a lot of features. In fact, JavaScript is, in some sense, it's more advanced than Ruby, than Python, than Emac Lisp. Okay, um, since 2015, you have, and you can, you have arrow functions. You have destructuring. The destructuring assignment. You don't even have that. I'm not sure you have that in Python, and I'm not sure you have that in Ruby neither. And destructuring assignment is actually fairly complex. It can get quite complex, and then you have spread operators. Okay, finally someone is talking. Good morning, Finch. Agile is the cancer of the programming world. Yes, it is. So, Finch, what are you up to? By the way, where you from again? Or as they call it now, Agile with a small a. What do you mean Agile with a small a? So, there's something very interesting. Okay, finally we got questions. Good morning, Sound Toxin. Does JavaScript have any use outside the browser? Yeah, of course. Heavy, seriously, heavily used. For example, Atom Editor. And you know the VS editor from Microsoft, VS Code. You know the name of the editor is Code. So GitHub, you know, they decided they want to create an editor about 8 years ago, something like that. So they created one written in JavaScript. And actually, the way it works is that it is basically just a Google Chrome browser. You know, that's a basic, that's a foundation. Then so the Atom editor is basically a Google Chrome browser. So it's written in JavaScript. Then so that's Atom. So then Atom, the GitHub's Atom editor. Then they split out the core part. They call it Electron Framework. So Electron is a framework for JavaScript to create applications, any application, not web page, not website, or not phone apps. Any application for your desktop, for operating systems. So you have the Atom editor, which use the core of it is the Electron framework. Then I believe Microsoft used the Electron framework and created their own version of editor called Microsoft Code. And in fact, I think Electron framework is used by lots of applications now, and those are not just web pages. And in fact, I think Microsoft also made their net.net, the whole .net structure to support JavaScript, meaning that you can use JavaScript to write you know, uh, any software for Microsoft Windows. So yeah, the use, JavaScript is, is so heavily used everywhere today. Yeah, so let me talk about JavaScript a little bit. Let me clarify, okay? So JavaScript today is one of the most used language. Let's say top five most popular. So among top five, you have C. Actually, C is not that popular today, okay? But anyway, C, C++, Java, JavaScript, Python, and PHP, Ruby. These are about the top five, and maybe C sharp. So these are the top five languages. Okay. Uh, uh, okay. Don't trust much what you read on the web. Okay, about Electron. Actually, I don't have any experience using Electron, but yeah, I couldn't say it's. I think I also heard negative things. But anyway, that's what Atom Editor is written. Atom Editor. So MS Code Editor. Let's just look up some of the web pages. Okay, so let's look up some of the web pages. Atom Editor, and so we have the Atom Editor. Okay, it looks pretty. You see this animation? This from GitHub. A hackable text editor for the 21st century, my ass. All these marketing phrases, I really despise them. Hackable, you see? No, okay, so this is a marketing phrase, obviously, because, on the first page, it tries to say something to entice, to attract, the users. So for marketing phrases, you can see a lot of things, between the lines. First of all, you can see that what's their goal. You can see what's the audience. The audience is obviously programmers, because the editor is for programmers. So they want to attract programmers. So their tagline or the marketing phrase is a hackable text editor for the 21st century. So what does that mean? It implies, okay, it's for the 21st century, meaning that it's like modern, so it's like new. Essentially, it means like new, better than old things like Emacs, then note the word hackable. So it's like, okay, a hackable text editor. So the hackable, the hackability is like, so it means it's a positive. It implies that programmers like that. They like something that's hackable. They like the word hack. Which is, I despise the word hack. Anything that's associated with the word hack, I despise. Hack to you, okay, common programmers, or the elite hacker type of programmers, to them, okay, it means, it's a privilege, like it's a elite, it's like a higher status. It's somehow, hack, it came from, uh, Richard Stallman, basically that generation, hacker, or hacker news, for example, the Paul Graham, it's hack means like, it's kind of like, a positive tag to them, okay, to this programmer Fox. To me, hack means the worst shit. You don't know how to design, you don't know mathematics, you don't have time, you don't think about things, you hack. Like you try random things, you try clever things, like the C and Unix Fox. That's to me what hack means. I don't want to be a hacker, okay. If whatever I do is good, I want to be considered like great mathematician, great engineer, great programmer, okay, not hack. So anyway, that's about uh, the Atom editor, okay. So okay, they got the Wikipedia page, Atom editor. So Atom editor is a free and open source text and source code editor for Mac OS. Wait, for Mac OS and Linux and Windows. Blah blah blah. Atom is based on Electron, formerly known as Atom Shell, a framework that enables cross-platform desktop applications using Chromium and Node.js. Yeah, so basically it's just Chrome web browser. Chrome web browser, um, a web browser has become so powerful and so monstrous, so so it functions like, the core, the framework for text editors. So, imagine in the Atom text editor, when you have a new window, it actually just a new browser window. A new tab is just actually a new browser tab. And where did the URL field go? Well, it's just like removed. So the whole window is just like a whole window is just a text box. So it's like a Chrome browser. But anyway, so let's look at Visual Code Studio. Okay, let's look at that. Then Visual Studio Code. Close that. Okay, so this is Microsoft's version. Code editing redefined. Okay, now let's look at this. This is for Microsoft. Okay, Visual Code Studio, Visual Studio Code. Now they also have a marketing phrase. The primary marketing phrase is code editing redefined, and free open source runs everywhere. So there it is, another marketing word, code editing redefined. So what does it mean redefined? So the way they want you to think is that like the atom, let's compare the marketing phrases. Compare these two marketing facts. So so this one, atom, is the hackable text editor for the 21st century. Now the Microsoft version is code editing redefined. Oh Jesus, they redefined it. So what does it mean? So it means it's not just new, okay? In fact, they redefined the thing. they, they, I guess, it implies they changed the nature of code editing. So it's brand new of the new. It's like redefined, and compared to the GitHub, a hackable text editor for the 21st century. Now, in comparison, the GitHub marketing phrase seems to be lackluster. you know, it's just a hackable text editor for the 21st century. Jesus, 21st century. We are year 2019. We are already 19 years into 21st century. So this 21st century is kind of old already. Now, on the other hand, the Microsoft uh, Visual Code Studio Code is code editing redefined. Oh God, this is redefined, and it's free. Oh, free is the key word. When anything is free, free food, free pizza. Things fly, and open source and runs anywhere. Oh yeah, just like Java. Okay, so yeah, so there, you got these things, and Electron, not funny. Oh, Electron Oak, whatever that is. Electron Oak. Let's look at that. Do you think a college education is important? Now, if you are going to be a programmer, if you envision programming is your career goal, then a college education is not important. And I would also say, if you have a strong interest in math, if you want to be a mathematician, not just want to be, but you are so much interested in math, like you read it every day, you eat math for food. If that's the case, okay, then college education is also not important. As you know, provided that for programming and mathematicians, you do, if you really have strong interest in them, you don't need college education. But however, for some other things, for example, if you want to become a dentist, you know, or a doctor, then it is important. And if you want to be a, let's say, historian, no, it's not important. If you want to be a writer, a greatest writer, for example, uh, college education is also not important. In fact, education, the value of college education has been rotted. Let's say 100 years ago or 200 years ago, a college education is rather prestige, if you have a degree. Um, but it has become, for kind of two reasons. One is that it has become commonplace. It's like almost everywhere it's become so very common. In fact, it's almost like free education in many places, like in Germany or whatever. It become required even. Um, Whenever things are free, okay, the quality goes away, become lower. So that's one reason college education has become not much value. You have like thousands of PhDs every year. You have 10,000, 100,000 PhDs, even in mathematics, okay, and in computer science, okay. They know nothing, really. They know nothing. First of all, a lot of these people with a degree, they don't have an interest in the subject. They are in college because their parents told them to, because they think they'll get a good job, have good money. But They do homework. They hire someone else, such as me, to do homework for them. So college education, yeah, no. So let me read Electron. So there's the Electron Framework. Let's look a little bit. What is? Oh, this looks fancy. Electron. Build cross-platform desktop apps with JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. There's one thing interesting about CSS. Because CSS, is used to define appearances, right? I myself never had the experience of programming a desktop application. Um, I never actually have the experience. I read a little bit, but I never actually coded a desktop application. Doesn't matter in Linux or Windows or Mac. I never did. I only have experience of building websites, or website apps. So called, you could say that. So I know CSS, very well, but it appears, but I don't know how to code GUI. Let's say write a desktop application, GUI app in any OS. I never done that, but it appears to me CSS, the way CSS is used, CSS and HTML is used to define the looks of a window and buttons. It seems they are replacing the traditional widget frameworks, in desktops. I'm wondering, is that a good thing or bad? I don't know, because I don't really have experience of how do you actually the GUI frameworks to create windows, buttons, menus, and things like that. But however, it seems to me today CSS is kind of replacing a lot of that. But I don't know how is that good or bad. Okay, so let's read the comments a little bit. Finch. Yeah, so JavaScript has huge uses today for some reason. I think it's mostly fashion. It's not because, JavaScript is really good. Therefore, all these big companies started to create frameworks to let you use JavaScript to write apps. No. Yeah, actually, I think it's rather the movement of the industry, and part of the way the industry moves is because where there is money and where the programmer interest goes, and programmer interest not necessarily because they have good knowledge, they have good decisions, but rather because a lot of JavaScript programmers, they don't know nothing, but you have a lot of JavaScript programmers. Therefore, you want to create a situation where people can use JavaScript to write apps, because then you can hire them cheaply. So I think that's the reason. Have you heard of the Pony language? A reference capability secure programming language. No, I don't know what is the Pony language. Let's see. Pony IO. Pony. Uh, oh, that's interesting. So welcome. This is the website for the Pony programming language. Pony is a open source object oriented actor model. Capabilities secure. What the fuck is that? High performance programming language. I don't think I'm much interested. I'm first of all turned off by object oriented and turned off by actor model. Well, but I'm biased, of course. I don't even know the language, but just from the marketing phrase, uh, I don't think it's for me. So Pony. Okay, so let's see. So do you like Pony, or why do you ask Finch? So you think it's good? So Sun Toxin says, I have mostly heard bad things about Electron. Yeah. Finch says, okay, it makes sense to use JavaScript. So Finch says it makes no sense to use JavaScript for a desktop application, in my humble opinion. Yeah, I agree. Um, yeah, so Finch says I don't mind JavaScript itself. It's just that it has way too many silent behaviors which can cause problems in corner cases. Yes, it has tons of it. I cannot begin to describe. Uh, ES6 is quite good to actually use. Yeah, you have some form of destructuring in Ruby. Oh, okay. Argument destructuring. Good morning. I'm a digital nomad from Australia. Oh, yes, from Australia. No, wait. Is AUS is that Australia or Austria? It's kind of confusing to Austria and Australia. So Finch says agile with a small a is AIDS layered on top of cancer. That is, uh, yeah. So sometimes in 100. Good morning, Green Deck. So Green Deck says, "What is your advice?" Uh, okay, Green Deck. Grindex says, what is your advice in choosing key bindings for new commands if I use Xafly keys? Okay, that's a good topic to talk about. I'm kind of, I'm probably not talking well today because sometimes you just don't feel like it. And I don't, so like sometimes I feel, I should make this show like a real show so it's more professional and none of my anyway. So what is your advice on in choosing key bindings for new commands if I use Xafly keys? Okay, I can answer that one. uh okay, so here's advice for that. Okay, if you have further questions, Green Deck, just comment. Okay, I'll see it and answer that right away. So if you are a Emacs user using Softlight keys and you have some commands you use often, you want to give them a key. So what key do you how do you pick a new key? So here's a general rule. Okay, one, is your command repeatable? Meaning that for some commands, okay, I call them fast repeatable, meaning that you want to repeat the command several times within a second. For example, move cursor to the right or to the left. For example, yeah, move cursor, to the right or left or up or down, like the arrow keys, or move by word. Okay, these are what I call fast repeatable commands. Let's search the web. Xali fast repeatable command. You'll find an article I discuss the situation. So this is the article. Key binding design, fast repeat commands. Okay. So those are commands that you often call them more than once within 1 second. So usually that means you hold the key down. So for example, page up and page down, that's one of the example. Page down, for example, you have a long if you have a long page, you can hold it and you just keep calling the command tens of times within a second, for example. So those commands are fast repeatable commands. Now, some other commands are not. For example, if you are in Emacs, let's say you want to open a file, right? I want to open a file. So then I call the command, then I have to choose a file. It's not something that you just call it, many times within a second. Okay. So they are repeatable, fast repeatable commands, and there are those commands that are not. Vast majority of commands are not. Okay. Now, for the repeatable commands, you want to give them a key such that you can hold it down. For example, any of the function keys like F10, F11, F12, for example. You want to be able to hold it down, or you can give them keys like Control T. For example, you can hold down Control and hold down T, and that command will just repeat. So you want the keys to be repeatable. Now, what keys are not repeatable? So, for example, you cannot have keys like Control X then 2. Obviously that doesn't work because you have to hold Control, press X, release Control, then press 2. That calls your command. But if you want to repeat it, you cannot do it. You cannot hold the key. So anyway, so for fast repeatable commands, you want to have fast repeatable keys such as Control T or a single key. Keys like that. Um, so for Emacs, so I would recommend bind them to control something. Okay, find some control something key you don't use, then bind it, or you can bind it to meta something or alt something. Okay, like alt T, or do that. Now, if the command is not repeatable, you just bind it to a leader key like space something. For example, and find a spot. In fact, there's an empty spot you can use. Um, let's see, space. Wait. Yes, space dot. Wait. Space dot. Space dot on Vorak. Okay, on QWERTY it's space E. I think that's empty. Just find an empty leader key space and bind all your commands, non-repeatable commands, to that. Okay, that's one question answered. I'm not doing good. I'm not doing well talking today. So let's see next question. Green deck. So green deck. I hope that does that answer the question. So next, headless browsers in a manner of speaking with a custom UI. Yeah, that's about Atom. Headless browser in a manner speaking with a custom UI. Aaron Dodd says, "Hi Xa, speaking of math, do you have any tips, advice on self-studying math?" Yeah, but what do you mean specifically? Like, do you have any context? Uh, so speaking of math, do you have any tips, advice on self-studying math? That's you know, actually, if you want to, depends on what you like. What's your situation? Are you a young guy who, like a teen? Okay, let's say 20 or below 20, who wants to be a mathematician? And also, yeah, depends on lots of things. Or maybe you are 30, you already have a programming job and you want to study math. So the path, the tips will be very different. For example, if you are a young person, okay, if you are under 20, you like math a lot and you want to be a mathematician, you have to be careful because you can study math by yourself, but it is also very important to have a guide. Like you have to, like some professor, like as a friend, or some your dad is a professor, for example, or if you have that context, then that's good because from them you have even implicit guidance about what you want to study. You are on the right track. But if you don't have friends who are mathematicians or physicists or whatever, you may not want to take my advice of just studying math by yourself because you don't have guidance, and there's huge amount of math. You can easily go astray. Like you're going nowhere. You actually so despite, even though you are extremely interested, you could have, you want to have some kind of guidance. Yeah. So that's that. But some yeah, about okay about some tips about learning math. Let's see. Okay, so what about tips and advice for self-studying math? Yeah, that's a very broad question. Like, do you mean what text, what topics to read, like what branch of math to study, or do you mean what's the techniques of doing proofs? You know, like let me know, Aaron. So Aaron dot, let me know. And what's your current level? Yeah, that's also a good question. Uh, I mean, yeah, good tip. So Sun Toxin says, I was considering college but haven't gone yet. I'm not sure what I want to study. Yeah, so that question actually that depends a lot on you because each person are actually very different. You cannot imagine what's other people's situation, including your family background. Are you and how much money your family are making? It really actually depends on all that, and also which country are you from. So you really have very different answers. So yeah, so about going to college, you want to, if you give me more detail, I might help a little bit. But actually, I think this is, whether to go to college is kind of very broad, general question. But if you ask me, it's overrated for sure. Especially for programming. If you want to be a programmer, you don't really, you don't want to go to college actually. Also, actually, go to college to learn something is actually extremely inefficient because you have to drive or take the bus or whatever to go there every day. You have to do the admin stuff, like registering a class, and you have to meet, go to the class, take the time to go to the class. You have to meet people, you have to do homework, extremely inefficient. Like 70% of the time you spend of so-called going to college is like not about studying. Actually, less than 20% is actually reading, the books or stuff, listening to lectures. But however, the advantage of college is that it gives you a context. It gives you a like a community, you are with other students, like you have to do this every day. It's kind of like a routine of your life. If you don't go to college, then you are like me, for example, sitting at home all day. What you gonna do today? You don't know. What you gonna do tomorrow? You don't know. You can easily, you know, if you are not a Buddha, like me, you easily get distracted. You easily become something else. You went to do drugs or whatever. Because on the other hand, if you are going to college, every day is your college life. You go to this class today, you go to party tomorrow, but then after tomorrow you have to go to another class. You kind of, that's the way, it sets a schedule for you. But in terms of actually learning, you are learning like only 20% of your time is spent actually learning something. And also there's a lot of things can go wrong. Most people go to college, you are not, you don't learn anything. You don't learn history. You don't learn nothing. You just go to college to party. That's a good thing. Actually, you meet all the young girls and you party. Young guys are actually stupid. Young boys, not until you are like 30 something you became. It's actually true, for females, for girls, okay, they mature naturally very early on when they were young, because I suppose it's because biology, because women you have to have baby early on, because after a certain age you cannot. On the other hand, men, there's, essentially there's no limit, until you can still have baby at age 50, so. And remember, just 200 years ago people die at age 30, so girls, they get married when they are, 13, 14, then they have children at, 13, 14, and people die, at 30 you are gone for, you're done at year 30, or 40 you are lucky. So that's just even 200 years ago. So, but so anyway, I was saying, so females naturally they kind of mature early, while guys, as a girl say, stupid boys. That's true. you know so but when you are older, you kind of get, for some reason, okay, for males, guys, when you are older, you you know what you want, about, you become more mature, which is the case for me as well. I don't know. When I was younger, I you know was, especially with respect to girls, like I don't know what I want, and even I do, I don't know, um, what to do. So girls, like, guys who are mature, know what they want and can get it. Like you have to. All these came from experience. Anyway, so let's read some more comments. So Aaron says. So Aaron is studying calculus. Yeah, so Aaron, but that also depends on your age. Like, are you like kind of under 20 something, or are you, 30 something? So uh, yeah. So the advice about learning math would be different. For example, why are you learning calculus and linear algebra? So Finch says, Okay, Finch says, I like Pony, the language. It is extremely powerful, but with a steeper learning curve than even Rust. Oh my god. Type safety and data race free guarantees at compile time are very interesting to me. Oh, that's interesting. So I suppose Pony is kind of a low level language. Yeah, I don't know much about low level programming. So AUT is Austria. Oh, AUS is Australia. Oh, I see, Austria. What language do they speak in Austria? Oh, okay. So Aaron says, I do software dev already, but I like to get into more math heavy areas like game dev. Okay, now we have context. Okay, so you are already a software programmer, but now you want to get more math. Now we have context because now there's a question of what math to study. You could study calculus and linear algebra. Like the other day I talked about the branches of math. There are many branches. Um, yeah, I think it it really depends on what's your goal. Now, if you have some specific goal, for example, if you are a game dev and you want to get into more linear algebra, okay, if you want to understand more math related to programming, so you can maybe do better game programming or something, then you want to study practical linear algebra. Like linear algebra related to computer graphics. Which is actually quite different from linear algebra, kind of the real linear algebra mathematicians are interested about. Like for programmers, when we think of linear algebra, we think of, oh, it's useful for computer graphics, 3D. But actually, that's not the nature of linear algebra. And when you're talking about linear algebra, when you're talking about computer graphics, matrices or quaternions, programmers always like these fancy words, they know nothing about, they maybe know they don't know the whole background, where these come from. Like they have no idea. They just know, oh, linear algebra, oh, matrices, oh, quaternions. That's what programmers are. I despise the programmers. When, but why? But what's the alternative? The alternative, the normal, the proper way to understand things is not just, you heard it something on Hacker News every day, then you talk about that all the time. That's what happens with quaternions shit. Rather, you want to have normal development, so you understand, like you have the broad of all things, you learn things naturally. Then maybe you find this interest, quaternions interesting. Then you talk about quaternions, you know but when you talk about that, you already know the background, how, all the other things you already know, you know unlike the programmer's concept of, anyway. So when programmers talk about linear algebra, what they are thinking is, the matrix multiplication, computational, to find out, how do you rotate. For example, you have a point in 3D space, you want to rotate it in certain degrees, and what's the coordinate for the new point. That's what you do. That's a use of linear algebra, uh, or actually matrix multiplication for computer graphics. Okay, but that's not math. Okay, that's one application. Application of linear algebra theories. Linear algebra is actually about, linear is a qualifier. Okay, it's an algebra. Algebra is an abstract structure. Okay, so for example, if you go to Wikipedia, okay, you see nothing about the coordinates points. Linear algebra. Let's, for example, yeah, so it says, Wikipedia, linear algebra is a branch of math concerning linear equations such as, a1 x1 plus a2 x2 plus a3 x3 equals to b, okay, and so on. That is the origin of linear algebra. Okay, that's a history. That's a historical origin of linear algebra. But linear algebra as a proper math subject is not about linear equations. Okay, for example, the Wikipedia article gives you history. Um, you see the history, the procedure for solving simultaneous linear equations, now called Gaussian elimination, appears in ancient Chinese, blah blah blah. Anyway, that's the origin of linear algebra, to solve multiple linear equations. Okay, that's the origin of linear algebra. But it's not really linear algebra is about today. Okay, what is linear algebra? Math, real math, for today's mathematicians. It is this. Okay, it is this one. Vector spaces. You are dealing with vector space. So what is vector space? Well, it's okay. So a vector space over a field F is a set V equipped with two binary operations satisfying the following axioms. Okay, then you have this axiom. So it's all abstract. There's no equations. It's just this. It's just a set of things, and it's a field. So what is a field? Field is another abstract thing in algebra. So anyway, what I'm talking about, what I'm saying is that linear algebra, the real linear algebra of math, okay, is not about computer programmers thinking about, oh, matrices, oh, get the coordinate of a point. It's nothing like that. It's about this, you know then you have linear maps, the subspace, span basis. Okay, these are critical concepts. um, okay, then you have matrices. Matrices is not actually matrices is actually just a computational tool. uh, Endomorphisms and square matrices determine, okay, eigenvalues and eigenvectors. Those are also critical stuff. Dual map. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, linear algebra. So back to the topic. So if you are a programmer, depends on what your interest in math. Now, if you want to just learn more math so that you can be a better game programmer for computer graphics, then okay, learn linear algebra. Okay, but then if you have general curiosity about math, then there's a lot of things. I talked about this topic the other day, a few videos back. You might check it out because I gave you know let me see. Okay, okay. Thank you, Green Deck. Um, okay, I think we talked about for long. Okay, we are about to shut down. So, any more questions? So, Aaron says, for context, I'm in my mid 20s with software job. That's great. Yeah, so what exactly is your goal in math? Are you just curious? You want to want to be no more math? Like, because there are so many things you can go into. Very interesting to programmers, for example. There's graph theory. Okay, that's very interesting. There is, okay, abstract algebra. Like I mentioned, linear algebra is part of algebra. Okay, there's abstract algebra. Okay, where you have fields, ring, groups. Those are very interesting. um, graph theory, okay, abstract algebra, also those are fundamental. On the other hand, when you are saying you are studying calculus, that's also very important, but in that direction really have very little to do with programming, because then you study calculus, then multivariable calculus, then you study um, analysis, so-called analysis, which is actual real mathematicians calculus. Okay, then you have topology. um, then you may get into differential equations and differential geometry, but anyway, those are not much with to do with programming. Yeah, but the point is there are so many topics. Then there's also computational geometry. Then there's also a branch of logic where, for example, if you are interested in proof theory, lambda calculus, that type of thing, or theoretical computer science, what is computable, what is not computable. Uh, you know, then that's another topic. So there are many ways to go into math. Depends on what's your interest. Does that make sense? Let me know. Uh, okay, for me, having done math last in university, is going to indie dev. I like to know how to do game programming. I never actually learned. I think it's very time consuming. Is there anyone who wants to teach me? We can do, okay. Now, if there's some of you, okay, Aaron or Finch or some of you, now, well, you have to be a game dev for like 2 years, let's say. Then we can set up. We teach each other program. You teach me some game dev, okay, from the ground up. Then I can teach you, maybe some math or where to go about math or something like that. I can teach you Emac lists, for example. For example, okay. So if you want to do that, let me know. Contact me in private. Uh, okay. So Sound Toxin says you are in the U.S. and family is not very wealthy, being out of school. So are you currently working as a programmer? So you are considering your options. Yeah, that would be hard to say. So wait, sound toxin. What's the context? Oh yeah, so you are wondering if you want to go to college. Wait, am I still broadcasting? Yeah, okay, I think I am. Okay, anyway, my talk went, kind of bad, I guess. So guys, any more questions? Let's say goodbye for today. All right, see you guys tomorrow. Hope you join me tomorrow. Thank you for coming by. Bye.